Welcome back to the show. Well, civil society group Food Sovereignty Ghana is kicking against calls on government to step in and fund research on GMO cotton that has stalled as a result of lack of funds. The CSIR says it has suspended the trials following a decision by U.S. company Monsanto to withdraw funds. The Cotton Farmers Association wants government to step in and provide the funding that FSG says it's the FSG, the Food Sovereignty Ghana, says it's an opportunity for government actually to abandon the idea of introducing GMOs into the country. Edwin Kweku Andobafo speaks for Food Sovereignty Ghana. Will be also joined on the telephone line by Patrick Apula. He is Vice President of the Cotton Farmers Association. In the meantime, though, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, who is on our environment desk, is here. He's well vexed with the matters of GMO, and the explanation will come from him. So, Mr. Ando, let me start with you. This, for you, is a fine opportunity for government to halt this. But do you see that as a feasible result, something that you could actually achieve? Looking at how far we have come with the conversation on GMOs and how government has not really been keen on halting the trials until now.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon to your audience. I think it is an opportune time to make take a second look at this whole genetically modified organisms in our agriculture. As sad as it is, I'm quite happy that the example happened just across our border in Burkina Faso, because we've been saying this for the past 3 years, but this time it hits right close to home, where the promises that were promised these farmers as far as the higher yield, as far as the higher quality fiber, were never realized. In fact, the farmers were trying to pursue Monsanto for $100 million in damages because they were promised results that never materialized.
Let me just barge in a little bit and bring Joseph in so that Joseph can give us the background. Actually, we should have done that before we took that. So, Joseph, give us the background. What has accounted for the withdrawal of Monsanto?
Okay, so Monsanto was funding the work by the CSIR in Tamale to do this GMO cotton thing. In fact, these are GMO varieties that are being engineered genetically so they can resist pest attack, the bollworm insect, and also a few other pests. The work started back in 2012, and once you do it, and then the Biosafety Authority grants the permit, and then it's renewed. And so it was supposed to run for, I think, 6 years plus. But a situation arose in Burkina Faso. You know, Burkina Faso has been growing GMO cotton since 2010 thereabout. And in fact, 2 years after they introduced GMO cotton, more than 70% of the GMO that, the cotton that they grew there became GMO cotton. And the farmers adopted it very rapidly. But then they ran into problems. They were concerned about the quality of fiber that was coming out of the GMO cotton fields compared to what was grown conventionally, and the concern being that the one from the GMO fields were shorter than the one from the conventionally produced one. And so the cotton companies rejected this, and then they began the phased withdrawal. Which is how come Monsanto, which was actually funding the trials of the same GMO cottons here, the same GMO cotton in Ghana, decided that they were withdrawing funds. Hence, then the program was put on hold. That was back in 2006. And then now we are hearing that there's an official suspension of the trials. And then the reaction has been that the scientists say they are looking for money. I've been speaking to Dr. Chamba Emmanuel, who's actually the lead investigator on the project. He said they are looking for money from other sources to continue this. And then we've had the Cotton Farmers Association step in and indicate that they would want government to step up and provide the necessary funding. That's actually the background to it.
So that's the background, very, very detailed background. So let me now bring you in. Now that the cotton growers are asking for government to step in, let's back to the question. Is this feasible? Your voice against theirs.
Well, thank you very much. I don't see what it is that the cotton growers in Ghana want to experience that their counterparts in Burkina have already experienced. There's a proverb that when you see your neighbor's beard on fire, you have to gather your own water. We have already an example across the border where you can see that what was promised. Don't forget, GMO is a novel technology. This is new. So we have no idea about the long-term risks associated with health or even the impact on the environment. So in fact, one of the premises of our resistance against GMO is because there's no consensus among the scientific community on the safety of GMOs. This is a fact. So among all the scientists in the world, there is a significant proportion that have cautioned that, look, because we don't know of the long-term effects of genetically modified organisms because they can be created in a lab.
Right.
We don't know the long-term effects on human health and the environment. These are positions that the United Nations has taken. These are positions that food sovereignty has held. I think these are the positions that have informed countries like Germany, France, Italy, Russia, Holland, from banning genetically modified crops from being grown within their territorial boundary.
I mean, I've engaged experts on this question, this very issue that you raised, and what they say is that those people, it's not like an outright ban. What they have done is to move on to a different technology. But let me just also announce that I have on the line Osofo Patrick Apula. He's Vice President of the Cotton Farmers Association. I'll bring you in this, Gakpo, but let's hear from the cotton growers. Now, you've heard the explanation of the food sovereignty Ghana, and they've been by this, they've stood by this for a very long time now, and they're still standing by this. They think that government should just close it off, close this page and let's move on with our lives. But you are calling for government to step in now that Monsanto has withdrawn their funds. But what is the basis upon which you're calling for government to step in?
Yeah, thank you very much. GMO cotton or GMO products in general is technology that has been developed by our farmers or our researchers. Our researchers would not like to kill his fellow researcher if that GMO is harmful.
Is that what?
Many times in cotton, Burkina Faso, Mali are producing GMO cotton. That is bringing them in millions of dollars into government coffers and millions of silver into the farmer's pocket.
Okay, so you just mentioned Burkina Faso, and Burkina Faso is the very reason why Monsanto has withdrawn the funding, not just to Burkina Faso, but to Ghana as well. Are you aware of that fact?
No, I'm not aware of that because GMO cotton is still produced in Burkina Faso.
But the GMO cotton, the Burkina Faso farmers they are no longer using the GMO, is it seed?
Yes,
you say seed, right?
So it's a phased withdrawal that's actually ongoing, following a decision in 2015.
Because last year, I led Togolese cotton farmers and Ghanaian farmers to Bobo Lasso, and we inspected GMO cotton farms. We visited the factory that is producing the yarn for export, and it is going in. And if it is still in the pipeline, that is in the pipeline, but we factually say that Burkina Faso, they are stopped producing GMO products. It's factual, understandable. Number two, as I said earlier, GMO cotton produces more than the normal cotton. One, it is less expensive to produce GMO cotton than the transgender cotton.
Have you say, hold on, sir, you said you're not aware of the development on that case in Burkina Faso. Is that correct? Yes. You're not aware of the development?
I'm not aware of that because I'm also...
Okay, so this is the fact. This is the fact. This is the fact. The fact is that the farmers in Burkina Faso are reverting to the conventional cotton seeds.
No, they are not. I have the phone number of that cotton company, and I have phone numbers of cotton president of Burkina Faso. If they tell some people are reducing the production of it, it's different than they have abandoned it.
Okay. Are you also aware that some of the farmers are taking the company to court and that they are seeking compensation? That's correct, right, Gakpo? They're seeking compensation because the quality of the cotton that they harvested was not the same as the conventional seeds. Are you aware of that as well?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
The
all right.
farmers,
so hold on.
Maybe it is on a different ground and not the quality of the lint.
Okay.
The lint is comparatively the same thing like a conventional cotton.
Mr. Pola,
and I see, excuse me, I'm sitting in Tamale and I see Burkina Faso articulators floating into Kenya to export GMO cotton lint.
I see.
So
since you are not aware of all of the new developments that are coming up, why don't you give your counterpart in Burkina Faso a call to substantiate what I'm telling you right now so that we can get back?
Yes, I will do that.
Please do that, and then we can get back to the conversation.
Yes, but what I want to tell you, people are against GMO cotton because if you were using 7 liters per 1 quarter acre, you are not going to use only 2 liters of insecticide on the GMO cotton, which reduces the farmer's burden of carrying 15 liters for 7 times around.
Okay.
That is number 1.
Right.
Those who are against the GMO cotton are the companies manufacturing the insecticide for farmers, which means they are losing their jobs.
Okay.
They are losing their market.
Okay.
So
I'll have you hold briefly. I'll have you hold briefly and then take responses from the people I have here in the studio. I have one from the Food Sovereignty who has been against GMO, and I have someone from our environment desk. He has the facts to take us through. Gapo, respond to him.
Okay, so to a large extent, I understand where Patrick is coming from, my very good friend Patrick. Now, what is happening in Burkina Faso is actually a situation of, you know, the GMO cotton itself was actually built, as I said, to resist pest attacks. And so the farmers themselves appeared to be for it because it was helping them do the trick in terms of helping deal with the pest attacks on their fields.
But at the end of the day, the harvest was not what they expected.
And so then the cotton companies had a problem with the quality of the cotton. And so the decision for the phase withdrawal came from the cotton companies in conjunction with the state authorities there. And then, you know, of course, once you produce and you're not getting market for it, then you don't have a choice exactly than to abandon that and, you know, go back to what was working for you. But again, the indication is that, and the Burkinabe officials have repeatedly made the point. I'm sure you heard the report that I filed, you know, on Prime yesterday when I had a conversation with Dr. Edgar Traore, who is with the National Research Organization in Burkina Faso.
Right.
He indicated that, as far as they are concerned, it's not a case of the technology itself failing. It's only a situation of the technology meeting a number of challenges. Those are the words that he used. I'm quoting him specifically. Because the indication is that, in simple terms, in producing the GMO cotton that was being used in Burkina Faso, what they did was to move the pest resistance traits from, you know, some other foreign variety of cotton into the local variety through a very complicated scientific procedure on the field. Exactly. And that's what resulted in the difficulty. And then they tell you that this is something that can actually be corrected.
Okay.
And just
so
the final
it's like a technology, you know, and it's met a problem, let's say, so we can surmount it and then move on.
And again, quoting the scientist again, he told me again, for example, that these are challenges that they are trying to correct with the GMO cotton. And the idea is that once that is corrected, then they can get the GMO cotton back on the market.
I see. Mr. Apula, I'd like to let you go quickly, but listen to the Food Sovereignty on this matter as well. Isn't it then okay that you say, actually, to the advantage of Ghana, that we have seen some of the problems that this could possibly bring. So in Ghana, we can, whilst we are doing the trials, we can still go on with the trials and make sure that we incorporate the problems, or we incorporate the solutions to the problems that Burkina Faso had. Then at least we've known from someone else's experience that there could be problems, so we could deal with it. So this actually presents us a better opportunity to do it better than they did it in Burkina Faso. Isn't that okay?
Oh, I beg to differ. You know, the thing is that this is what we've always been saying, that you need to have performed proper socio-economic assessments on these crops before you introduce them. Now, if the intention was to attack the insect angle of the pests, and it ends up affecting the quality of the fiber, you're looking at the sustainability of a business. when we say sustainability, we mean how sustainable is this business? Can we continue doing this next year? So if you tackle one aspect and it opens a door of another unknown, and you can now guarantee the quality, which comes back to affect the farmers because they weigh the head pan, and the head pan weighs less because the quality of fiber is shorter and is of a less quality. So Sofitex, which is the largest quality cotton buyer in Burkina, was one of the first to protest that if this trend continued, they would leave Burkina. Now, what are we waiting for in Ghana to dilly-dally and dabble with all these fine-tunings and still end up with things that are unknown? Because these biotechnology, because it's made in a lab, it is agreed under the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety that they are different from conventional, traditionally bred plants. So there's no guaranteeing that the next outcome of the tampering in the lab will result in another unanswered angle.
Right, but then that's the fear of
in
the
the
unknown.
US,
But that
in the
should
US
not
right
prevent
now,
you.
in the US right
But
now,
the fear of the unknown really should not prevent you from taking a step.
I think it's not so much of a fear of the unknown, but a need to rather do the right thing. You know, agriculture,
what is the right thing
agriculture on the planet, and almost every single agriculturist can tell you that the issue of sustainability now is the most important factor in food production. How long can you sustain this practice for? And that goes back to issues about soil fertility.
Okay.
You have to have a soil that can continue to produce. And so we're trying to, make two wrongs make a right. The thing didn't work in Burkina. You can look at it and say that we'll fine-tune it and bring it to Ghana. That doesn't guarantee that we're going to have more positive outcomes.
Okay.
And it shows that agroecological practices, which is practices that invest back into the soil, invest back into the earth, have more water conservation and less chemical input, is what the earth needs. And so Ghana, at the center of the earth, needs to rather take a visionary approach and concentrate on creating an organic haven, because we are about 6 to 8 hours from all the thriving markets in the world. It's factual that across the world, organic produce and the demand for organic produce has doubled or even tripled. You probably have relatives outside, and they'll all tell you that they pay more for organic produce.
Let me take your response to the cotton growers. They want government to step in and to fund the trials so that they can continue.
Well, I mean, the gentleman, obviously, I think you heard him yourself. He didn't sound too coherent in his argument.
No, he doesn't have information.
Well, but he's the head of the cotton growers. So if he's coming to represent their views, he must be knowledgeable of the fact that this is what Burkina Faso is facing. He can't come on radio and TV and profess to know and speak on behalf of all cotton farmers when India has had a disaster with BT cotton. Burkina has just had a disaster with BT cotton.
And
so Ghana must avoid this. Look, we are sitting here, we are sitting with a galamsey problem in this country.
All right, we need to go because of time, but I'll come back to you to wrap up quickly. But Ms. Apula, I need to let you go right now. Are you in touch with government? Have you written to government? Have you called on anybody in government with this your request?
Yeah, dissemination of our policies, as he is talking of my ignorance. Scientific world, you can do whatever you want. You go to internet, you see what is happening in Burkina Faso.
Sir, kindly answer my question for me, please. Are you in touch with government? Have you reached government with your request for them to fund the trials?
The request through our regional minister that they should introduce or bring back the cotton industry. And by bringing the cotton industry, Ghana Biosafety Regulations, Savannah Agricultural Research Institute is having on-station experiments about the GMO cotton. So if that the biosafety law is now spreading into production, government should take clue of it. We don't have to wait until a century. We bring something like AGRA, a revolution for Africa, when the revolution took place hundreds of years back. We are not training our scientists to be idiots. We are training them to use their mind.
Okay, sir.
So our scientists are working seriously to detect.
So you say you have made this request to your regional minister. Which region is it?
No, well, we are waiting.
No, is it the regional minister or the sector minister? Which minister are you talking about?
Regional minister.
Which region?
Verbal request. Face-to-face request.
Okay, the Northern Regional Minister?
Yes.
Okay.
Face-to-face request about the cotton industry.
And what did he say?
Well, he said he will forward the message.
Okay. All right.
Because they are just some days into office.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on the pause. Osofo Patrick Apula is Vice President of the Cotton Farmers Association. Let's wrap up this conversation. Gapo, you have a quick word. Make it real quick.
The point is this, that, well, of course, this is new technology being introduced into food production. Some of these challenges, to a certain extent, should be expected. So the example of Burkina Faso has been cited. They've run into problems. That's a huge PR scandal, if you ask me, which has to be fixed. But the reality is that in South Africa, they're growing a lot of other GMO crops vastly. Farmers are adopting it. It's working for them. Even in the United States of America, there is a huge consumption of GMO products. The point is this, that you shouldn't pick on an incident. Well, he mentioned India. That's a very controversial issue. Depending on which scientist and which reporter goes there and comes, the story is different. So it's, for me, it's completely out of place to pick on one isolated incident and use that as the basis to draw a very broad conclusion. Okay. So we all need time. The conversation should continue. The trial should continue. Mind you, there are trials of GMO, cowpea and also GMO rice that are ongoing in Ghana. I'm sure the scientists will see what comes out.
So those are not related to the cotton bits?
No.
Okay, so those are still ongoing?
Those are still ongoing.
Okay.
In fact, the expectation is that with the GMO cowpea, for example, by 2018 it should be on the market. We all wait to see what the outcome of the trials will be. But the situation in Burkina Faso, as I said, is the downside. We know the situation in America. It may not be a very good basis to sit on the Burkina Faso example and draw a blanket conclusion.
Fair enough. Blanket conclusion, you call it. He will definitely not agree with you. Your final words.
My final word, I think it's also interesting that we've been saying that this GMO agenda has been a foreign initiative. And now Monsanto pulls out of funding. We see that we have issues with going forward. It is not a Ghanaian initiative. Ghanaians have not even been included in the debate. Otherwise, Ghanaians would not need for us to dabble in GMO. And we use America as an example. But in America, there's been so much evidence to show that the passage of a lot of these GMO regulations actually flouted their own FDA rules. There's a gentleman by the name of Stephen Drucker who has written extensively on this to show that the stakeholders themselves sort of turned a blind eye on a lot of the regulatory protocols. And so the first generation of GM crops went through in a manner that if it had gone through a little stricter regulation, wouldn't have gone through. And now the whole world is following based on that premise. But two wrongs don't make a right. Ghana should stay organic, and let's market to this growing demand for organic food around the world. It's only logical.
All right. Thank you very much. That's a word that you would hear from food sovereignty because they've stood by that word for a very long time. Edwin Kweku Andobafo is Communication Director for Food Sovereignty Ghana. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is on our environment desk, bringing us the. On the line was Mr. Apula, who is Vice President for the Cotton Growers, speaking to us. He says that they've spoken to the regional minister on that matter.